Good morning. Welcome to our I Work NC Career Connection speaker series, and we're so excited to have with us this morning Dr. Matthew Meyer from the NC Community College System. He's the Associate Vice President for Business Engagement, National and International Partnerships with the NC Community College System, and is responsible for the system office's state-level sector partnerships and business engagement, developing and coordinating partnerships with government and national organizations, and serving to assist NC community colleges with their international programs and connections to the university's international efforts. He began his career with the North Carolina College System with Asheville-Buncombe Technical Community College in Asheville, North Carolina in 1995. He served as an instructor in the Mechanical Engineering Technology Program, Department Chairperson for Mechanical Engineering, and as the Dean of Business and Industry at AB Tech. He's also served as the Director of the North Carolina Bio Network between 2006 and 2009. He has his PhD from Old Dominion in 2012. He received his master's in bioengineering from Clemson University in 1992 and his BA in mechanical engineering with the University of Dayton in 1989. So Dr. Meyer, we're so excited to have you here today. And if you're ready, we'll start with your first interview question.
Sure.
So we see that you have this bioengineering, mechanical engineering background. So what interests led you to choose that career and then led you into the community college system?
Yeah, great question. I have to go back to my days in high school. I was raised in a small town in Ohio, a small, really rural farming town. And my mom was a teacher, my dad was a social worker. And I really think they guided me and talked about, the really career guidance and career information. And they had a friend who was an engineer, and he drove. All right, so this is the materialistic side of me, but he drove a Corvette, a red Corvette. And I was like, I want a red Corvette. And so he talked to me and said, well, become an engineer like me and you can get one. So that kind of drove me into engineering at the University of Dayton. However, I co-opted. So I took advantage of work-based learning to learn more about the career and realized that not that I didn't like engineering, I didn't like the type of engineering that I was being trained into. And so I began to look at how I could apply my engineering education and saw a feature at the time on Bo Jackson. If you remember who Bo Jackson was, he was a baseball player, football player, but he got hurt in a football game and had a hip implant, a titanium hip implant. And that began my interest in bioengineering, biomedical engineering, bioengineering, to learn more about that profession because it appeared to be at the cutting edge. It was when I went to visit some opportunities in Tennessee where bioengineering was taking place at a couple industrial sites. It was very clean. It was very exciting to me. And so I pursued that through Clemson University and got my master's in bioengineering. However, at the time when I graduated, a certain little lady came into my life, and my wife, and she graduated a year ahead of me, even though she was behind me. So she got her chemical engineering degree and began working up in Asheville. And so I didn't want to lose her. I followed her to Asheville and found out that bioengineering jobs in Asheville, North Carolina were few and far between. However, as luck may have it, at Asheville-Buncombe Technical Community College, they had an instructor job open up in the mechanical engineering technology. And I was like, hey, I can do that job and still search for a bioengineering job. But this is what happened. I got infected with community colleges fell in love with helping people, helping students at the community college level, and have been with the community colleges ever since in a variety of capacities. So that's kind of how where I'm at today, is really just, work-based learning helped open some doors, and then community colleges just embraced me and hugged me and haven't let me go.
Wow, those are great answers, because we talk to students when we're doing careers is think about the type of lifestyle you want. So that's a great thing that you pointed out about the red Corvette, because, as high schoolers and middle schoolers, they see those material things. So that's a very important point, because if we want to have a better lifestyle, sometimes we have to have those educational opportunities to make that happen. So that's wonderful. And I love the interesting point that you made, that even though the bioengineering was not available and you had that degree, you were able to move into another spot. And from that sparked an interest in seeing that, oh, I love helping people. And this was a very important point for what you're doing right now. So those are awesome.
Yeah,
So what,
education opens doors no matter what. It opens
oh,
doors.
education, whatever we're doing, is always a springboard to something else. So what do you enjoy most about your current job?
Well, the fun thing about my current job, the passion for helping people has always been there. I mean, without a doubt. But I think where I'm at currently at the state system, so the community college system office, we support all 58 community colleges in the state. And if you didn't know that, we have 58 community colleges. Every citizen in North Carolina is about 30 minutes from a community college campus. And in today's world of Zoom, that may not matter anymore, but back in the day, very important to have that open access to our community colleges. And I think it is really wrapped up in that kind of sense or feeling about community colleges being the community's higher education location, place to go to advance in your career or change your career or find a new career or find the career that you want to do. And that's always been a joy for me. But at the state system, at the state level, I get involved in some of the latest, most current initiatives to help the citizens of North Carolina improve their economic mobility. And that's, that gets down to the economics of helping people make more money, have family sustaining wages. So a good example of what I do now is we have an initiative in the state called the My Future NC initiative. And so that is all built around by helping 2 million more North Carolina citizens attain some type of credential of value, a credential that will lead to a family sustaining wage by the year 2025. And so I'm involved in that initiative, working with our colleges, looking at the degrees and the credentials that we are offering and ensuring and helping them to assist their local communities, their local business and industry, just to make sure we're doing the right stuff. And that's a lot of fun. That's very rewarding when you see individuals go through our community colleges, and maybe they were underemployed, or maybe they came right out of high school and they couldn't afford to go to the university, had financial things, but they come to our community colleges and they succeed, right? And that is so rewarding to see. I probably plugged the community colleges throughout this interview, but in my mind, they are really the foundation of our economy here in North Carolina. They are a stepping stone for anybody in the state. And that, to me, is what I enjoy about my current job, is that ability to help people.
That definitely would be a very rewarding activity to be part of. And I'm a single parent myself, so I know that for parents, that is a good way for them to be able to earn more and make their children and their lives better. So you are correct that this is a very needful opportunity for our state, because I know I'm within 30 minutes of our local community college, and we have really made an effort to do the things that are applicable to the trade industry here, the engineering that our employees can go to and further their education. We also have a local casino, so the hospitality and tourism is an important part of that. So that definitely is a wonderful opportunity for people across the state. So thank you for being part of that initiative. Have you found any surprises within your job that was not really in your formal learning, but you had to find ways to work around them because of the type of industry that you're in the community college system?
Yeah. So the broad stroke impression of an engineer is very, math oriented, science oriented, but kind of an introvert, right? I mean, that's the way I saw engineers, and I kind of fit that mold as I was coming through high school and into my higher education training. I was very much an introvert. But if you look at my title now, it says business engagement. And what that means is I need to go out and build relationships. And so that was not something I was trained to do in my education pathway. And quite honestly, this is, something I'm not proud of, but I had to do a presentation when I was at Clemson University in front of about 30 students and probably 10 faculty, and I literally passed out. I was so nervous and afraid to talk in front of that crowd, but that did something for me. I said, man, I am never going to be in that situation again. I'm going to become comfortable speaking in front of people. And I think it was that experience that helped me really move to where I am today, because that is one thing I have to do almost on a weekly, if not daily basis, is talk in front of groups. I'm a trained facilitator. I can get in a meeting and run it and keep it going forward and be able to engage people and pull from them to help move some of our initiatives forward. It was important when I was an instructor. You sit in front of a room full of students to engage them and get them involved in the learning. That was very important to be able to do that. So it wasn't something that when I was in a heat transfer class that they were talking about, right? It was all about the math and science. So that was probably the most, I don't know if it's surprising, but it was the most challenging thing for me to be able to do to get to this point in my career. And it's constant. I mean, and I'm sure you all feel this way, that when you have to present in the public, there's always a little bit of that nervousness, but I enjoy it now. I look for opportunities to get out there and as part of my job or otherwise, to get out there and talk in front of people.
What an excellent point, that public speaking skills are such an important part of many jobs. And you're correct. Even when I do these I Work speaker series, I am nervous beforehand, just wanting to make sure everything works, that everything comes together. So I'm so proud of you for taking that experience and using it to propel you into developing those skill sets. And I love the point that even though you shared that you're an introvert, that you have been able to overcome that and develop these skills, because I think sometimes our students see that that is a hindrance, but a lot of people are introverts that are surprisingly in a lot of different professions, even actors, and you would think that they were all extroverted, but we do personality tests in my Success 101 class, and a lot of those actors are in those introverted skills. So I'm so proud of you for working on this and sharing with our students, because even though it's something we see as a failure, they're not really failures, they're just opportunities to do better. So what an excellent example for them to see that you were able to springboard from that presentation where you literally passed out. And that happens to a lot of people, even in public performances. In middle school, I saw children that were in the chorus performances that locked their knees and they'd actually pass out. So it is just part of it. So that's such a wonderful example. Thank you.
Sure.
Well, we know we're in COVID-19 times, and they definitely have changed what we're doing. So, what are some of those challenges that you found in the COVID time that you've had to bring a solution to?
Yes, without a doubt. I like talking to people that when we come out of this pandemic, our world has changed, right? It's not only dealing with the pandemic, but as we move into the future, higher education has changed. The world of work has changed, and we've got to be ready. We've got to get the population ready for this. So, one of the things that with with all the Zoom and all the remote meetings, in a way, I remember looking back at March, and I'd be in a remote meeting, one of our first, and people weren't engaging and they weren't talking, or they didn't have their cameras on. And now when I'm in a meeting, it is so natural. Everyone has, I've got my Zoom outfit on right now. I haven't shaved in a while, but it doesn't matter, right? We turn our cameras on and we engage, and we've improved our ability to have remote meetings. In fact, we're having so many of them now, we're dealing with Zoom fatigue, right? And so the same thing with education. I think back in March, community colleges, we sprinted to get everything online, right, for the safety and the protection of our students. And in doing that, in some cases, I think the quality of the education that was moved online probably suffered. And I think our students are, even in the public schools, they're going to have a year, it's like lost knowledge, right? And we're dealing with this pandemic and we've lost some knowledge, and we're going to have to make that up. One of the things that we've identified, especially through our workforce development efforts, is there are huge populations in the state that lack digital literacy. And so that's what we're working on at the community college level, developing digital literacy programs. And I'm not talking about sort of, how you turn your PC on and how do you access apps or the internet. This deals with how to learn in a digital environment. And there are things and techniques and methods of getting the most out of a Zoom class or an asynchronous or synchronous class. And that's what we're putting together, and we're going to focus on our rural areas. Our the Hispanic Latino population is a good example of that. Our African American populations in some of our more rural areas, many individuals just lack that digital literacy, and it's something that has just been emphasized by the pandemic. I think the community colleges, we're working hard to train our faculty to be able to do a better job of reaching out into those communities, reaching out to those individuals and being able to teach them. So I think that's been not only a challenge for our faculty to get up to speed, because in many cases, faculty are teaching remote classes who've never done that before. And that was a lot to put on them to convert their classes to online and then be able to do that. So those are probably the major things, is identifying the populations and the gaps that our different populations have, whether it's the broadband or digital literacy, identifying the training and the different professional development that our faculty need to ensure quality education, that we don't lose any more knowledge due to online learning or this pandemic. And then just to ensure that the content, the rigor of our courses is embedded within them, even though they may have moved from in class to online. So, we're not going to go back to the way it was. Things will be different moving forward. And, out of crisis is opportunity. And I kind of, to put a positive spin on what we're going through right now, it's been an opportunity for the community colleges to really embrace this technology to create things that'll help us in the future. Long answer, but it's kind of where we're at.
Well, that was excellent, because this digital literacy, just because we can put something on the internet does not make it a good way of teaching or
Right.
learning. So I know that this has been a challenge, but I like the point you make. It is a positive opportunity for us to teach and to learn better as we move through, and we have the technologies. We had Mr. Jeremy Collins last week, and he's the Internet Innovative Connectivity Director for Governor Cooper, and he's working on getting broadband across the state. And I live in a rural place at the far west of North Carolina, so we have lots of places that you do not get good cell service
Right.
nor internet. My sister's grandchildren have to come to her house in order to do their schoolwork. And they have actually been out the past 2 weeks because their administration had COVID and there wasn't anybody to run the school. And then they had to do trace contacting, and so even though she tested negative, she was still isolated for 7 days. So it's a big opportunity, and I love that you're speaking to that, because I think we'll see some real positive outcomes with this workforce development, the community colleges. And I had a question about what developments are taking place for like these hands-on things you might need to do, like in labs, or like people that do HVAC systems or
Right.
automotives or things like that. What types of programs are being put in place to help with that?
Very perceptive, yes. So a bulk of what community colleges do is what we call applied, right? It's the hands-on training that's so important. Uh, think of nursing, right? Do you want a nurse who's never worked on a patient before? So yeah, how do we handle that at the community colleges? Well, one of the things that is occurring with still a lot of remote lectures and content online, but the hybrid model, so where you have some of it online, but some of it face-to-face. And what the colleges are working to do are to spread out their classes. So maybe an hour-long lab is now 3 hours, and then spread the students out. So you have fewer students in the classroom. Also, within some of these labs, they're like in a bubble. So a piece of equipment that they need to work on might be completely contained within some type of plastic, almost like shower curtains, right? And so fewer students, time in between when the students come so they can clean, sanitize, separation of the equipment with barriers so that we're protecting the students, requiring all students and the faculty to wear appropriate PPE, the mask or face guards in some cases, and of course sanitation, the hand sanitizers everywhere. And one of the things you could take away from this is the cost, the extra cost that it's causing our colleges to be able to install some of these protections, and we didn't plan on it. And so that has really been almost the bigger issue, is how our colleges are able to maintain the level of education when they're having to offset or redirect funding to just protect students and faculty and staff with different types of measures and interventions. But that's essentially how they're doing it. Longer labs, fewer students in the lab, spread out, social distancing, barriers, and the appropriate face mask or shields and whatnot.
Yes, definitely the cost factor is a very important aspect of this COVID-19. And not only that, one of the things I read is about how much trash is being generated by all the things that we have to have in place, like the protective gear. And the cleaning supplies. And
Oh,
so there's just so many environmental factors as well as financial. And it's very important, I know, because you don't want the cost to go up, because one of the advantages of the 2-year versus the 4-year is the cost savings factor. So are you seeing a lot of students? I know back in May, only about 50% of students had done their FAFSA. So what are you seeing as far as enrollments, even in community college and financial aid?
right, right. So we did take a look in September, but it's kind of preliminary to look at our enrollment. But overall, it's not as bad as we thought. It is down, but we're going to look in October, just because of when many of our colleges aren't starting at the same time, and you've got a certain period of time when students are in class, but then they realize I don't like this class, and they drop or change classes. So October will give us a better picture of where we are, but it appears rural community colleges, I saw many of them are down. And overall, right now, we are down, but we'll wait to see. I mean, I could probably answer that better in October. Financial aid it kind of follows the same sort of phase there with our enrollment. I don't know if we've seen an uptick in the number of students filling out FAFSA, but that's been an emphasis of the My Future NC. That's been one of their goals. And I think really when you get to see the impact there with financial aid is you need to jump into the demographics, as we're seeing more of the Hispanic Latino students filling out financial aid. And that's been a big emphasis of the College Foundation of North Carolina to really reach that population. I think they're doing a good job. Also, in some of our more rural areas, we're seeing a little uptick. But anyway, one of the things that our enrollment is very dependent upon are the adults, working adults, and I think right now for many of them, with the economy, they've got to go out and find work. So the education has been put on a back burner. And so that might be some of what we're seeing. The thing that I'm encouraging people to do, especially high school students, are to take those career and college program classes that are basically the free college classes that you could take while you're in high school. And they transfer to all of our public university in the state. Because right now with the economy and maybe your family is struggling, but those are free classes, and wow, what a way to get a jump or a head start in your education by doing that. And a lot of them, again, because most of those types of courses at our community colleges are online. So that was kind of a rambling way to say our enrollment, we'll know more here in a month, but it's not as bad as we thought it would be.
Well, that's always good news if it's not as bad as you think it may be. And we do know that the economy and the impact of it has had a big impact on education, especially higher education. And like you say, a lot of people are putting things on the back burner. I know a lot of students that graduated last spring, even in college, have had issues finding jobs because the market is so flooded with people losing jobs during COVID-19. So we know education, though, is a great way for us to have a better future, and nothing we learn is ever wasted. So thank you for that great answer. So do you think you will see an increase maybe in 2-year enrollments versus 4 years because of debt, cost, industry demands? Because we know that you do a lot of the applied things that they do not have to take those extra classes for. So what do you see for the future?
Yeah, it's, you know, before the pandemic hit, I mean, the discussion in the state and nationally was really the emphasis on skills and competencies, right? The national discussion of you got folks out of Georgetown University doing studies on the value of a 4-year degree, the value of a 2-year degree, and And they had data showing that in some areas, a 2-year degree was just as valuable as a 4-year degree. And so their argument was, why spend and go in debt when you can get a 2-year degree and be making nearly the same amount. And so that conversation has continued. We work so great with our universities. I feel the universities fill a huge need in our economy. But community colleges, maybe it's the bias in me, but we are the foundation. And I feel that a good example of this is my daughter, who will be graduating. When she was in high school, her choice was to go to the local community college. She had 10 friends. And I remember she told me that her friends said, you are smarter than that. And I was, of course, offended knowing that that local community college had faculty who worked at the local university as well, that the quality and rigor of the community college education was second to none. And that those students were basing that opinion on that image that if you go to a community college, you have failed. And that is totally a wrong image. That is opposite. I told her, hey, you are smarter because you are saving money and you're getting a jump start, because she wanted to go to the university. She just wanted to stay at home and make sure she was ready for it. And I think she was smart, because when I look at her 10 friends, only 2 of them are still on the same path that they were on when they graduated from high school. The others have either dropped out of school, either decided that college wasn't for them. A couple of them transferred into the community college. So I think there's a need for all different levels of education. But I think in the world that we are going to be moving into, the economics of things, people really need to understand that economically, community colleges are one of the best deals, one of the best kept secrets. And just picture this: if you're a high school or a junior in high school, you could begin taking career and college promise classes, community college classes for free. You could graduate from high school and already have knocked out somewhere between 3 and 12 credits that you don't need to pay for. You could transfer to one of our 4-year universities and continue. You've saved money, and that is so incredibly important. Now, the other part of this argument is we're seeing a lot of movement toward non-degree industry recognized certifications. And there are some extremely valuable industry recognized credentials out there. That's part of the My Future NC movement. And students can go from high school to the non-degree training at our community colleges, which is even more affordable than our degree or curriculum 2-year training. And then sit for like a American Welding Society credential, which we know we have students making 6-figure incomes, and that is all they possess is that type of credential. You could sit for different IT, cybersecurity, different IT credentials, and find great jobs out there through our non-degree program. So I think there's need for everything. It really comes down to the individual. Not everybody wants to go to college. Not everybody can afford to go to college, but there are pathways, definite pathways. And I go back to my, I guess, opening statement is, if the students and the adults out there can really picture where they want to go, set that goal. What is your goal? I feel that through the higher education system in North Carolina, we can help those individuals achieve their goals, whatever their goals are. We can help them. Whether that's a non-degree credential, a 2-year associate's degree, or a 4-year bachelor's.
Thank you for that wonderful information, because I think there is a misnomer about community college not being the quality that 4-year college is, and that is definitely not true. And I think you make some valid arguments for that. And I also see too that the maturity level of the student would be a consideration, because we know that a lot of college freshmen that go to four-year colleges, they end up dropping out because they're just not mature enough to handle. And I think when you have that local community college and you have that experience at home, you still have your support system. So it is a very individual determination of what is best for you and what you want to major in, but you can always do the 2 year and transfer to the 4 year. So that's another way to save money if you're going the 4 year route. So those are just great statistics, even what you said from your daughter's 10 friends. That's pretty typical, I think, of national statistics, because we know that retaining students in the 4 year programs has been a challenge over the years. So I think that's an excellent example. For your next question, what kind of technical skills do you see students needing to survive in the world they're in today?
Wow. Yeah. So one of the things that we are doing in the state, I'll get to this answer, but we are conducting what we call sector industry engagement meetings. And this is to identify the skills and competencies that different sectors are looking for in their workforce. So we've had one around the life sciences or biotechnology. We brought them in, we talked to them about credentials and their competencies and skills. And then we had the construction industry, construction and trades. And then we had the transportation industry and the hospitality and restaurant, tourism group come in. Next week, we'll be meeting with the healthcare industry. And so one of the commonalities across all sectors that they're telling us is the employability skills. So what do we mean by employability skills? Work ethic, being able to communicate, whether that's written or oral communication. Grit, what is grit? That's being able to take criticism and not quit and be open to it and get back up and continue. It's like resiliency. There is troubleshooting and critical thinking, being able to problem solve on the fly. There is creativity, you know, and there's just being able to work in a team and work with others. And so these employability skills, and it's very much like what I was saying earlier, you know, I was never that I took a public speaking class, but in a majority of my classes, we didn't do public speaking. Well, public speaking and the ability to communicate, that's an employability skill. And so I would tell students or adults looking to upskill is seek out opportunities to improve your employability skills. Community colleges, we have employability skills training courses that are recommended. Work-based learning, there is no better way to obtain employability skills than through on-the-job experiences, right? So whether that's a co-op or a pre-apprenticeship and an apprenticeship, wow, powerful. The things that an individual can learn through work-based learning is just unparalleled. But employability skills, we just can't escape them. That they've been, you know, I've been hearing it for 20 years. So, and we're working on it. We're looking to figure out how we can validate that our students have certain or have mastered certain employability skills, so that the employers, when they see maybe a digital badge or some type of credential, they're like, yeah, all right, I know they have work ethic. I know they have the ability to problem solve. I know they have the ability to communicate and so forth. Now, outside of that, each sector has some specific sort of technical skills or whatever it may be. For instance, the life sciences, you know, common skill that is required there if you're interested in going into biotechnology or biomedical research is understanding good manufacturing processes. So there's it's a very regulated industry, so you have to do things in a clean environment, and sort of understanding those different techniques or skills around working in a regulated, clean environment. The transportation industry, I mean, they're very interested in people having the commercial driver's license. There's a huge need, and we have a lot of employers like Amazon and Walmart that pay great salaries if you can get your CDL, your commercial driver's license. But again, these industries are looking for individuals who have initiative, can get in there and show up for work and be ready to go. The construction and trades, outside of the employability skills, which are extremely vital, is understanding power tools, understanding, again, working in teams, and safety is huge across manufacturing, across construction and trades, across the life sciences. I'm sure safety is going to be a big issue when we talk to healthcare. And these are skills, the employability skills, and some of these specialized skills, safety skills, that will be from now and into the future. And so these are things that, when I look at curriculum in many of our colleges, they're skills that we have embedded, but I think we need to do more, especially because so many things are going online. It's hard to, with the employability skills, being able to come out and engage and communicate. We've got to be able to do it better through our courses and through our training. And so that gets back to an earlier question, where we're working with our faculty to help train them so that they can begin to disseminate and teach these employability skills in a remote environment. So that's going to be important to us. But overall, just to summarize this long answer, employability skills, without a doubt, are what's going to be needed now and into the future, no matter what happens. I do think digital literacy skills are going to be important no matter what sector you're in. And then safety. You know, safety has become a big issue, whether it's what we have to do today with social distancing and wear masks, or what is it going to be in the future? You know, how are we going to act as a society so that we never have another pandemic? And the economy is dependent on it. Business and industry, they're very dependent on those types of skills.
Those were great examples. Thank you, because I'm like you. I've heard this for years, even when I was in school, and that's been a long time ago. And that this disconnect between education and what the industries and businesses need, we have to merge that in order to have better workers, better opportunities, because that's a very important aspect of our economy. So thank you for that great answer. Do you have any suggestions for middle and high school students that they might want to take certain classes or do networking opportunities in order to prepare for their future?
Yeah, I think I already talked about career and college promise, and that's mostly for our high school students. But in middle school, and you really can't start early enough, is sort of that career exploration, right? And this advice is not only for those students, but for teachers and parents. Is we've got to look for opportunities for different types. All right, let me step back. Work-based learning, there's really 3 or 4 buckets of work-based learning. There is the awareness of careers. I mean, that's a form of work-based learning. So career fairs, or bringing in speakers, or touring sites, or job shadowing. Those are all work-based learning awareness opportunities. There is the work-based learning exploration, and that could be it could be simulated environments that some of our high schools and our community colleges are involved in. It could be spending a day internship, spending a day at a job site, but really exploring what those careers are about. And of course, experience gets into apprenticeship and co-ops and so forth. But scooting back, so when we're talking about middle schools and the parents of middle schoolers and the faculty of middle schoolers, is that career awareness. How can we do more of it? And that's where we need to focus. I really believe that that I step back and I look at my daughter. I wrote an article called "A President or a Pirate," and it was really my youngest daughter. When she was little, we asked her what she wanted to be, and she said, well, "I either want to be the president or a pirate." And that is, I mean, really the thinking of our children at an early stage, right? They think grandiose things, or they look at what maybe, excites them when they're watching TV or movies. And at that time, the Pirates of the Caribbean was big, so she wanted to be a pirate. But what we did with her is we didn't say, "Oh, you don't want to be a pirate. Oh, you don't want to be a president." But what we saw in her, and what I think parents and even teachers need to try to figure out with their students are what her interests were. When she said that, I knew she liked the movie and she liked pretending. And so we really kind of focused her, and her career exploration as she was going through middle school is to foster that creativity. And we talked about filmmaking, and we talked about writing, and we talked about just developing her creativity. And now she's at the university studying filmmaking, and she wants to be a director someday. Now, she didn't say that early on, but I'm thankful that we kind of recognized that she was really interested in that creative arts and that creative world. And I think it's through that exploration, providing those opportunities, and for students to look for those opportunities, that we can begin to open up and develop those interests about what individuals want to do, and help them through their education pathway to get to that goal, whatever it is. Man, it's challenging. I just put a lot, I think, on parents and on teachers, but it's, again, as we move out of this pandemic, there's going to be careers that, 5 years ago were going gangbusters that may not exist anymore. And 5-10 years from now are jobs and careers that we can't even imagine. So it's challenging, but without a doubt, anytime students have the opportunity to take a tour of an industry or job shadow or learn about a career, do it. Take that advantage. Parents, if you get the opportunity, help them, go with them. And teachers, there's a great tool out there called the Navigator, Work-Based Learning Navigator. It's online. It's something that was created by the North Carolina Business Committee for Education. And it's got resources and tools for teachers to help them bring in that career awareness into their classrooms. And I say, take advantage of that. Without a doubt, that's what should be happening, especially at that age group.
Thank you for those wonderful examples. And I love the example of your daughter, that between a pirate and a president, you never know what they're going to do, but their skills, their abilities, their interests. We talk so much to our students in career exploration. What are you interested in? What do you have a passion about? So we can hone those as they go along. I know the last year that I taught in public school, I taught a drafting class. I had the most unlikely student that ended up going that path because of that class that he took. So you never know what's going to excite you. So exploring even different classes, we think, oh, I need to take this class, this class, this class. But sometimes taking something outside that realm and saying, oh, I thought that when I had to take computers that I would not be interested or enjoy it. And that's what I ended up doing, teaching computer skills and different things throughout my teaching career. So we never know where we're going to merge those interests and abilities with just something we come across that we may not even think will be part of our future. So great examples. Speaking of the future and with your engineering background, how do you see artificial intelligence's influence in education and industry? Because we know there's a lot of concern about maybe this taking more jobs, but how can we make sure that we're employable even as artificial intelligence becomes even more common?
Right, right. So, yeah, I like to use the analogy of the fishing pole and a fishing net, right? Um, when whoever invented the fishing net, they put a lot of people with fishing poles out of the job, right? I mean, what did those people do? Well, those people could no longer fish with their poles. They hopefully were smart enough to begin working and learning how to make fishing nets, or to learn how to um, um, process more fish, right? Because the net brings in more. And AI, artificial intelligence, that type of technology may replace jobs, but those people should be reskilled, because those systems, whether if you ever go to NC State University's library, the way the books are pulled when you want a book, it uses a robotic system. It might have replaced a couple librarians, but now they need individuals who can service, maintain, and repair that robotic system. And I would wage, I don't know this for sure, but I think those individuals who are maintaining that robotic system make much more money than those librarians did. And that's kind of the way technology is. When a piece of technology comes out, yeah, it's scary. And unfortunately, some people may lose their jobs. But that technology requires a higher education level, a higher skill level, which equates to a higher salary and wage, be able to maintain it. And so I feel like for us is we shouldn't be afraid of that technology. We just need to make sure that we are educating and training people so that they can move into those higher skill and higher wage jobs to maintain whatever our industry, our innovations are creating. Um, we do see in one of the things I do is work closely with our manufacturing industry, life sciences, and we do see a lot of automation. One of the things that I think is going to be vitally important is with as more automation, artificial intelligence moves into different sectors, it opens up the opportunity for whether it's hackers or cyber threats. And so here we see that AI may be replacing jobs, but I'm hoping some of those people go back and take training in cybersecurity or networking or some type of IT field to help maintain that equipment, to help protect that equipment, because there's going to be higher paying jobs and there's a huge need right now. So that's kind of the AI, the automation, that type of influence on industry and industry sectors. I think also with some of that, when we think about the future, to keep people safe, you'll see artificial intelligence replacing some of those face-to-face frontline worker jobs. And again, when those jobs are replaced, let's retrain those individuals to maintain or to move into higher skill, higher pay levels. In education, I do see some of that happening, whether it's through how we talk about securing data around education. There has been some work. You hear blockchain talked about a lot. You hear different types of AI being utilized or to just protect students' information. I think that's important, but also how we display what students are learning. One of the things industry has been telling us in all these industry engagement is they're more interested in the skills and competencies. And so can we use technology that is out there to replace that piece of paper transcript that we're all very familiar with. I mean, I've got some transcripts laying in a file somewhere, with something digital that will allow employers to really understand what our students are what they possess as far as their skills and competencies, so that it's clear, so they understand, to help them get in the door, get into that interview, and into those great jobs. I think that is part of how AI will impact education, from sort of that data, that transparency side of the game. Yeah, and I do think it's a field where higher education, if we didn't have programs that were teaching the code or teaching the theory around AI or doing that, we would be missing the boat big time, because I know other countries are doing it. We need to make sure our four-year universities, our research institutions are involved in that. Our community colleges are working to train people so that whatever credentials are associated with AI is available, so that we have the workforce to move into the future. So there's a lot of impacts there. You probably do a whole series on AI.
Very true. And it's so important you bring out the point that we need to be forward thinking. What is happening in the future? How can we help meet those future demands? And this is where this industry educational partnership is so important, because we have to look to see what our students may be able to do in their future. But the ability to learn is always a skill that's very important for them to have. And thinking about that, you talked about college and career promise. We have about 4 minutes left. Would you kind of help students identify the process if they're interested in that and they're not getting that information where they're at?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically our community colleges have required orientation for the Career and College Promise. If you are a junior or a senior in high school and think you would like to take a community college class for free that will transfer to a university, such as an English class, math class, there's different sciences, humanities, there's a whole wide variety. I would identify where your local community college is, go online and seek out Career and College Promise. You put it in their little search title and it should come up. Again, each college has an orientation, do those in the fall and spring, and you have to go to that, okay, as a student, and go with your parents. You've got to go to that. They're typically an hour or so long. They talk about everything you need to do, from getting the approvals from your high school principal, anything you have to do as far as talking to a counselor at your high school, and any applications or any materials you need to submit to be basically accepted into the Career and College program. And so those orientations are really the first step. So I would identify, every college kind of does it differently as far as the orientation, different dates. Many of these, because of the pandemic, have gone online. And so it's just seeking out those opportunities is step number one. Your high school counselor may know and may have that information. So don't forget about them. You can go talk to them. And in some of our high schools, we have community college employees called career coaches. Without a doubt, they will know. Now, career coaches aren't in every high school, but if you're walking the halls and you see somebody who calls themselves a career coach, go talk to them. They will help get you to the appropriate community college and the Career and College Promise orientations and help you get started on your way. I'll just put a plug in here. Both my daughters took Career and College Promise classes. They came out when they graduated with high school with college credit and put them ahead of the game. And so I can't emphasize enough how important it is. It will save your parents and you money. And again, our great university system here in the state accepts the community college classes through what we call a comprehensive articulation agreement. And so those credits, especially in those foundational core areas, will count toward your goal, your degree, whatever you want to go into. So I hope that helps.
Thank you. You have given us so much great information, Dr. Meyer, about the North Carolina Community College system. I thank you for mentioning the NCBCE and the Navigator and College Foundation of North Carolina. Those are all great initiatives in our state, and I'm so proud to be part of a state that is so interested in bringing our citizens what they need for their future, whether they're adults or students, and you play a great part in that. So thank you so much for being part of our I Work NC Career Connection speaker series today, and we just enjoyed it so much. So hopefully you can come and see us again. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You have a good day, and we'll talk
All
to you
right.
later.
All right. Take care, y'all.